wake up. Wake up, join the team. We will see you in Jesus' name. God bless you.
Good morning. Welcome back. Wake Up continues. WIDU, the We Do Radio Network, Facebook Live, YouTube Live. Welcome, welcome. Like, share, and comment. We wrap up Friday on an excellent note. Every Friday around this time here at WIDU, we present to you MP3 Radio Talk Show with the Pitts Brothers. Yes, this is a call-in talk show. They allow you, the listening audience, to call in. The earlier, the better. Phone lines are open for your calls, your comments, your concerns, any topics of talk that you'd like to see featured on the show. Give them a call at 910-483-6111. Let us savor the moment. Let us bask in the ambiance of true greatness. Nigel Pitts is in the studios. They say...
I'll say it for you.
Oh, bless you. I was getting ready to open up a can of worms. He said he was going to go solo, and I guess today is the day. Boss man, I hope you're well. You're holding it down for MP3 Radio Talk. We're missing some of the Pitts brothers today, but they give their best. We have one that's running a little bit late, but he'll be here momentarily. Until then, we got the best of the Pitts brothers. Mr. Pitts, good morning. It's on you.
Good morning, Tammy, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. And I'm glad to be here. And it's always good to be here by yourself. You know, anytime I'm here by myself, it makes me reflect back on the late, great Michael Jackson. And at some point, Michael Jackson said, you know, he's going to have to leave the group. He's going to have to leave the Jackson 5, Michael Jackson. It started off being Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5, and then all of a sudden it became Michael Jackson. And, of course, he went on to true greatness after that, and I think that's what we're going to have to do here. Marshall Pitts is on his way. Myron Pitts is out today doing something with the paper, his regular job, I guess. And I'm Nigel Pitts, and I want to welcome you to MP3. And I'm glad that you're with us here with us today. 910-483-6111. As Tammy so eloquently stated, this is a call-in radio show. You talk about, you know, some of the topics that we have, and then anything else that you might want to talk about. 910-483-6111. That's 910-483-6111. I think our participating stations WIDU 1600 AM, where I'm sitting at right now. WYDU 1160 AM, Red Springs. WAGR 1340 AM Lumberton, and WEWO 1460 AM Laurinburg. Again, 910-483-6111, 910-483-6111. Have to say I did that quite a bit better than Marshall did it right there, so maybe we don't need all this dead weight, Tammy. We'll see what's what. Myron sent us a couple of good topics, even though he's not here today. He sent us the topics, and I'm going to just kind of sum them up for you. Vultures in Hillsborough, North Carolina. Vultures. The bird, vultures in Hillsborough, North Carolina. He sent us a topic about politicians versus a 10-year-old, politicians versus a 10-year-old. Both of those stories out of North Carolina, so they're kind of local. And then, of course, he sent us something about Voting Rights Act, and we've been talking about the historical rollback of the voting rights of brown people in America. So let's start with the vultures. In North Carolina, is Hillsborough, North Carolina. There have been complaints about swarms of vultures in Hillsborough neighborhood having escalated into a lawsuit. So now these vultures, these birds, big birds, they're birds of prey, birds of, you know, eat all types of things off the street, anything off the street. Apparently, there's been a complaint in Hillsborough, North Carolina, about how many of them there are and where they are landing and where they're going and the types of things that they're leaving behind, excrement they're leaving behind, all of those things messing up. They're taking off tile off people's roofs. They're doing, you know, vultures are a pretty good-sized bird. And they're one of those birds. Whereas when you drive up on them in your car, sometimes they might not fly away. They might just look at you, and you might have to go around them. And you know, those type of things. So who they're trying to sue is the neighborhood is trying to sue the lady who is feeding these birds. There's a person in the neighborhood that is suing, and they want to get up and put an ordinance together that says you can't feed these birds other than regular feeders. Apparently one of the citizens is feeding these birds. What she's doing is she's just throwing, you know, food on the ground and the vultures are coming to eat this food. They tend to mark their territory with excrement, and they have long, sharp talons, so they're not great animals to have perching on your house. And so who they blame for this is believes the neighbors Ken and Linda Ostrin. He said complaints to the town have been widespread. I'm pretty sure that every one of my neighbors has probably called about this. And so what they're trying to do is put in an ordinance that says you have to use a regular bird feeder. So this is your typical fight between Marshall and Myron, the tree huggers, native guys, environmentalists, and then everyone else. So you have a neighbor that is deciding upon themselves that they're going to feed these very large birds, and they're laying vultures, and they're laying the seed down or meat down or whatever they're putting down that brings these birds. And they're saying that their side of it is that these birds were already there before they came to the neighborhood, and all of those things. The other side is saying that these birds are doing detrimental and doing danger and perform a safety hazard to everyone else who lives in that neighborhood. Anybody who's ever lived in a neighborhood before, you realize that there is always got to be some give and take, because you're staying right next to someone. So you all might have a neighbor that is not doing what you want them to do, maybe parking their car somewhere, maybe not keeping up their yard, maybe may have problems with dogs and all of those kind of things. But most of the time, it does not escalate into a lawsuit. The town has filed a complaint against the Ostrins, alleging they fed scraps to the vultures and even named some of the birds. So not only are they feeding them, they're making these birds pets. The town is seeking an injunction to stop the alleged feeding, which officials say has created a safety concern. Linda Ostrin, the wife, disputes the accusation, saying she's being unfairly targeted and that the birds were present before she moved into the neighborhood. This is Linda Ostrin's quote. "It is a sort of ridiculous is what it is, but I guess when someone complains, they have to respond." After initial complaints, the town updated its ordinance to restrict feeding wildlife beyond traditional feeders, and then they passed a rule. So what that does is, traditional feeders is when they put food into these baskets or things that hang in trees, and the birds will come and get them out of there, and then they'll kind of fly off. But Linda Ostrin has still been feeding birds, as far as we know, as far as the story goes. She still continues to feed the birds, like probably Marsh, as probably Marsh,
She did not say that.
as part. Probably. She probably continued. She's probably continued to feed the birds. She's probably continuing to feed the birds, and that's why the birds. Because we all know that birds. You remember we used to have that squirrel that hung around our house, and you and Myron was for feeding that squirrel. And your middle brother had to deal with the squirrel. I felt bad about it, but I had to deal with him, and you know how I dealt with him. and we didn't have any more squirrel problems around the house. And so this being North
that was inhumane, by the way, how you dealt with the squirrel.
We were having a problem with the squirrel. You and Myron had squirrels.
Caused your baby brother some PTSD and all that kind of stuff. The squirrel was nice. We had a good relationship with the squirrel.
I don't know what they named the squirrel. The squirrel coming all inside the house. You know, he would walk all. You know, they Martha and Myron were feeding the squirrel. He'd come all inside the house, walk up to him and feed. You know, very friendly. I had to deal with him, Tammy. I just couldn't allow the squirrel to cause all kind of problems within the household. We didn't need another member of the house. We had enough people in there feeding. But in this particular story here, it always amazes me how this comes to a situation where it had the courts have to get involved, Marshall. And you know how you know you're an attorney. You've dealt with neighborly disputes, quote unquote neighborly disputes.
They're never nice. They're
right.
never nice.
And you got trees falling on people's land. You got all kind of things going.
Right.
Dogs.
And
all kind of things.
What is kind of amazing to me was that the neighbor that lived next door to the people they think are causing the problem to the Richards, they're saying he saw them pulling the vultures pulling tiles off his neighbor's house, and then they came over to his house to start. So it must have been the neighbors that started this whole problem. I don't know how he made that connection, but it didn't make any sense to me.
You know what always amazes me about these situations too, and I'm bad about this too. I don't know I've lived in my neighborhood, March, for a number of years, since the late 90s.
Right.
And I really do not know my neighbors.
Well, your neighbors are transient over there. You
No, even if they're there 5, 10, 15, 20 years, like the one across from me has been there about 15 years, and I still don't wave at him and his wife.
Yeah.
But I still don't know the dude's name.
Right.
And nor do I think he does. And I think listen, if you have a neighbor who you think is feeding the birds, vultures we're talking about, why can't you just go to the neighbor's house? And I'm not saying that they didn't do that. They might have. I don't know. But go to the neighbor's house and work that out without having to come to the town.
I understand that, and that makes perfect sense. But however, in this day and age, you go to the neighbor's house saying, well, you need to do what they'll tell you to get off my porch or whatever you doing. What
now,
ain't you doing here?
If somebody's feeding birds, you don't have to worry about that. They're not the kind of people that's going to get nasty. You see what I'm saying? If they're feeding birds, vultures no less. And then if you look at, she said vultures add to the environment. They help the environment.
They do.
They clean up the streets when you kill a deer.
Their nature's forgot the term she used, but they really do that. I mean, the roadkill and all that kind of stuff. The vultures are the ones that take care of that stuff, man.
If people didn't have vultures around, you would hear them screaming bloody murder about the animals that have been hit by cars because they are nature's garbage disposals.
They are. It's true.
When something gets hit by a car, I expect the maintenance of the highway to come get them up. I'm not waiting around for the vultures.
But I'm saying, but you have to make the call. A lot of times, a lot of those, particularly the smaller rodents and animals, they never have to worry about calling the maintenance or because the vultures take care of it. They'll deal with all of that. And the thing is, I didn't know this part. Did you already talk about the part where to mark their territory? They poop everywhere. Yeah. So that's not too good.
They're dropping excrement everywhere.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. They got to eat, so they got to do something else too.
Right.
And so they're all over the neighbors' yards, all over houses, cars, and everything else. Especially if you have quite a few of them. And if you start feeding them, you're going to have more of them to come.
Right.
It's sort of like those slow walking. I guess it might be ducks. Is it ducks that walk real slow?
Geese.
And geese. They walk real slow. They won't allow you to drive past them and stuff like that. They're comfortable around people. And the reason why they're comfortable is because your neighbors are feeding them. And so when you're trying to get...
You sound like you wouldn't mind running over a couple of them.
No, I don't want to run them over, but I do want them to get out the way. I don't want to run them over now. But I do want them to move. And they'll be in a line.
Yeah, they will.
Walking real slow.
Right.
And they're comfortable around. And what these neighbors are saying was with these vultures is they don't want that to happen. They don't want a vulture. And now a vulture is not like geese. This is a big...
No, they're very intimidating looking birds.
Very intimidating, long talons.
They're very big, long wingspans, huge talons, and that they clutch stuff with, and
they have no
sharp
fear.
Beaks.
And they have no fear of humans. Because you and I both know, we see them in the street. Me and Tammy were talking about that before you got here. They'll see them in the street. They'll make you drive around. They're not like birds that start flying away when the car comes up. You got to drive around unless you want to destroy it because they're big. They're good-sized birds.
They are.
And so I just found this amazing that it took this. Listen, again, there's nothing wrong with wanting to preserve vultures. I've never heard anyone say that vulture was on the endangered species list. They might be. I'm not really sure. It's not like a bald eagle or something.
Right.
But anyway, nothing wrong with wanting to preserve vultures. But again, this is in my mind, this is an environmentalist saying to themselves that I know best for the environment, and then I'm going to continue to feed these birds. Stop feeding the birds. That's the thing to do. Stop feeding the birds, or put them in a bird feeder like everyone else kind of does.
Well, the vultures probably, that'd probably be a little difficult for a vulture though, as big as they are, to get in to deal with those traditional bird feeders. Their beaks are probably too big and all that stuff.
And it's not going to. If you stop feeding the vultures, they're not going to starve.
No, they're not. They'll
vultures will be fine
somewhere else. Yeah, they will.
They'll go somewhere else, which is what the neighbors want them to do. The neighbors want them to go somewhere else.
So we'll see how that all works out. It's I really didn't know that they were that. Well, I guess all birds, as they're flying or whatever, will drop excrement,
No doubt.
here and there. So I guess
So if you have
the
a
bigger
group
the
of-
bird.
Right. The bigger the excrement.
Right.
And if you have a group of them, then they're going to be doing the same thing
Right.
wherever they are.
Right.
And so, again, both sides have a valid point. And see, my thing is, I don't know how reasonable the environmentalist is. And the reason why I keep calling her that, she's a long-time wildlife rescuer.
Okay, what's wrong with that?
Miss Oshner. Well, that's where she's coming from.
You said
she's coming.
you
she's
said
coming
like
from
it's
a
a
place.
problem.
She's coming from a place.
Animals need to be rescued.
She's coming from a place where animals first, humans second.
No, well,
That's what when they
You
start
can't
going
say
down
that.
that road, animals first, humans second. And again, I think what bothers people is the type of bird.
Yeah, that's the main thing. Yeah,
I don't know that anyone would be as upset if it was geese,
Right.
or if it was some other type bird,
Right.
But this is a big,
predatory bird.
predatory bird. It's not a small bird. It's a big
Right.
bird. And
Yeah.
so menacing is what some of the words they use to describe. This is not a bird that you're going to go up to and pet.
Right.
Or try to keep as a pet.
Right. And that's the real problem, because vultures are often associated with horror stories and in movies, and they have the vultures and then when somebody getting weak or about then they're really wounded or whatever, they'll show the vultures
Circling around the house. Circling around wherever it is.
Right.
Because they know the end is near.
Right.
They can sense when the end is near.
Right. But anyway, we'll see how it all works out. But the next story, did you already talk about Miss Virginia Fox, Representative Virginia Fox?
I set it up. Politicians versus a 10-year-old.
Right. It's
battling it out.
Yeah, it's pretty. Anyway, Christian Mango, who's a 10-year-old. Christian lives in Greensboro, and she was concerned, or he was concerned, I'm sorry, about the pollution, people being threatened by pollution. One of the things he worried about was the glaciers, what would happen to the glaciers because of the warming of the environment. Another thing he worried about was the worsening weather. So what he did, he took it upon himself as a responsible, studious 10-year-old to contact his representative, and that was U.S. Representative Virginia Fox. She's a Republican from Banner Elk up there near the mountains, and he had a solution for her. Why don't we do a $5,000 tax rebate from the federal government for new electric vehicles? Now, of course, Christian didn't know that that was in place before, and we've done things like that with the federal government to give you tax breaks for electric vehicles. That has since been done away with, but that was his idea, and so he sent it to her. A nice little letter. He was very proud of himself, and the letter, once the letter got to Representative Fox's office, she actually responded, and she responded to the student with a strongly worded letter that has since gained national attention. She told him, one of the things she said in the letter, mind you, was that, I guess your teachers are not providing you with a good educational experience and help you to learn to think, as they are too busy indoctrinating you. So she took offense with the letter, I guess, being she might have been like you, man.
She said, "How sad." She said, "How sad."
She had said, "How sad."
She was very condescending, very nasty to the little fellow
Right.
but however, this provides him with a good political education, because his opinion
it should.
Yeah, but it did.
Right.
So now he knows that his opinion, even though it might be good to him,
Right.
it might be a great opinion overall, does not mean that his local legislator or his local politician is going to agree with what he said.
Right.
Now, the problem with it is, if this letter came from an adult, like you or I,
Right.
and then she responded this way, or in a light way, because we wouldn't still be doing educational
Right.
stuff, but in a light way.
I wonder, did she know he was 10? What do you think?
Well, she knew he was a kid because she said about his education.
Right.
So she knew he was a kid because she thought about his education. So she knew, if nothing else, she knew he's below 18.
Right.
That he was a kid, that he was getting his education.
Right.
And so
Which says something about her. I mean, I don't get that part. Why
she's the Republican representative education leader, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, she's it. The education's her thing.
Education's her thing.
Right.
And so of course, and then that led to some back and forth that led to his mother getting involved and saying that's the reason why North Carolina is 50-51st. It's not really 50-51st funding-wise. I think it's 46-47, whatever it is. Right. It's at the bottom. And she got involved to defend her 10-year-old son. Right. They probably thought that this was a good thing to do, and it probably was. You just sent it to the wrong representative. You just sent it to the wrong representative that didn't want to hear what you had to say.
Not at all. And Representative Fox's letter also included counterpoints to Christian's suggestions about the environment. She said that a tax rebate would come from the pockets of everyday Americans, how the United States is on the path towards bankruptcy and economic failure, and that he and his classmates would have to shoulder the burden. Now that's like a very sunny thing to tell a 10-year-old, you know. But then her mother, Emily Mango, as you just pointed out, Maj, now this is the thing about it. Obviously, Representative Fox is not a big believer in, even though she was public educated in the public school, she's not a big believer in public education as much as it appears from her comments. But Miss Mango and Christian, he attends a private Christian school in Greensboro. I mean, he's not even a public school student. But the mom was outraged at the response that, you as a parent, you just don't expect your kid. If the kid's doing something like that, really branching out and doing things to be engaged in his civic responsibilities and whatnot, that was a good thing for a kid, regardless of whether you agree with his viewpoints or not. It's a good thing for a kid to be doing this kind of thing. She, in her wildest dreams, did not expect for this mean, nasty letter to come back to her 10-year-old kid.
So you would not expect that coming from that representative?
No,
I don't think I was as surprised.
I know I would.
Especially after if you do just a research of her name and how she feels and stands on certain things.
Right.
Then you probably would know that maybe it's not going to be nasty like this, but it is going to be a letter that rebuffs what you're saying.
No, I agree. No, that I did not. With her, I know what some of her positions may be, but I did not anticipate, and I'm sure the mother did not anticipate the very nasty tone to this letter. I mean, she could have just been suggested, well, have you thought about these other things that, other than the ideas that you talked about, that might be beneficial? And she could even told him why she thought his ideas might not work, but telling him he's been indoctrinated and how sad it is, and that.
What do you think is the mother went on to say? She called on Instagram. She went on to call Fox's response to her son horrific and reprehensible.
It was.
I don't know that I would go that far. Not in today's climate.
It was. I mean, but that reprehensible and horrific has become the norm.
Correct.
Okay,
that's what I'm saying.
But it's still,
she would have had to go further.
She would have
had to go in today's climate. She would have had to go further for it to be horrific and reprehensible. So in today's climate,
and even in today's time, you don't have adults, and particularly not adult elected leaders, going hard in on the 10-year-old. That's different, even in today's climate.
Because a 10-year-old usually doesn't say anything, so we don't know whether they would go hard in or not. We don't know what they would do, what an elected official would do, because most of the time 10-year-olds just are doing whatever they're doing.
Right.
They're not writing to elected officials about all of those things that goes on and about environment and all of those things. And so, Fox, she could have looked at it as someone put this 10-year-old up to it. And I think that's kind of how she looked at it.
She may have.
Someone put this 10-year-old up to it. And your question was, did she know he was 10? She might not know he was 10, but she did know he was a child.
Right.
Because, she belittled his schooling.
Yeah, she did.
Indoctrination into his schooling and those type of things.
Not knowing probably not even aware where he was going to school or anything. But anyway, it's unfortunate, and I'm hoping, and it doesn't appear,
no, it's not going to be no apology.
Right. It doesn't appear that she's going to be apologizing to the 10-year-old. That's not going to happen. Which is again another thing that's sad about this story. If adults are supposed to accept the example, right?
Apologies are for people who believe that they are wrong. Representative Fox does not think that she's wrong. She had time to sit down and write this response. So if you're going to apologize, if you even look at the stuff that came out of her camp, they acknowledged it and those type of things, but they didn't say anything about any kind of apology or any more forthcoming statements from. Again, we talked about this in other venues about Trump. He doesn't apologize for anything. He doesn't feel. We talked about it last week. He doesn't feel he has anything to apologize.
No, I don't think he's ever felt he had anything to apologize. I mean, I think somebody asked him that question. Have you ever done it? And he couldn't think of anything.
Yeah, he couldn't think of anything that he had done to have to apologize for. And so when you start going down that road, and then I can think of half a dozen things you and mine right now need to apologize for.
I'm sure you could.
needed to apologize for. So when you start talking about you can't think of it, so back to Fox, for example, she doesn't think that she did anything wrong.
And the other thing that's just sad about this whole situation is the fact that Representative Fox has been in the legislature, the federal legislature, since 2000, early 2000s, if I'm not mistaken, 2000. She's 82 years old.
2006.
Now. Yeah, she's 82 years old now, going hard like this on a 10-year-old. I mean, come on now, Representative Fox.
Well, first of all, it doesn't, and I've said it before, and I'll continue to say it again. You and Myron have been against it. Y'all starting to waffle now.
Against what?
Term limits. Y'all starting to waffle a little bit. You starting to break a little bit because you see what happens when someone is, and especially now when they're redrawing the district lines and all that,
right.
And you're going to have the same representative probably or a representative from the same party. You need term limits. You need competition. Supreme Court is a perfect example of that. You can't have someone who is accountable to nobody. And I don't know where Banner Elk is in North Carolina.
It's near the mountain, near not too far from Boone.
She figures she can say whatever she wants to say. No one's going to beat her, and they have not beat her since 2006. Because on those elections held every 2 years.
Yes. So,
that means she's been winning
limits,
since 2006.
Right. So term limits haven't. Well, I take that back. It's every 2 years, and she's always running. When you're running every 2 years, it's a continual thing. But since that early 2000s, mid 2000s, early 2000s, that's 20
years. This is 2026.
Right.
So let's say that we set the legislators, the representatives, the ones that runs every 2 years, at 20 years, 10 years. How many years you want to set it at? Because as you know, you got people serving 30 years, 26 years, 28 years, whatever. You got to set a term limit because people begin to feel they're not accountable to the people. Or they're only accountable to their people.
Right.
And they don't have to worry about
the rest of
it. And the Supreme Court is that way. It's a partisan Supreme Court. The United States Supreme Court is partisan.
I think a lot of Supreme Court judges don't also, in addition to not feeling accountable to the people at large, I don't think they necessarily feel as accountable to what you call their people. I mean, it's a very insulated job. Once you're there, you're the highest court in the land. Your decisions, and a lot of times they made decisions, both good and bad, that were clearly against what the majority of Americans wanted done. For instance, back in the Civil Rights Movement, the Warren Court, all this stuff they were passing as far as segregation laws and whatnot, the majority of Americans either didn't want it or just didn't have a good idea, good feeling about it. They weren't jumping up and down like they were in the South as much, but this still was not widely received as a good thing by the majority of Americans. And so, but the Supreme Court made those decisions. So there's a good and a bad side to it. And when you have
you can make those decisions, but then know that you're gonna have to be out down the road too. That's all I'm saying.
But my point being that if you have to run for election,
no.
Some of those tough decisions.
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
I don't want them to have to run for election. Not the Supreme Court.
Right.
I don't want to have to run from election. I'm just saying that you have term limits.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying about Ms. Fox. 20 years is enough.
Right.
That's enough.
Right.
It's as simple as that. You're in office for 20, 30 years. Everything that you're going to do, you should have done.
Right.
By now.
Right.
If the president of the United States can only serve 8 years, a governor,
which may change,
but it hadn't changed yet. Right. A governor can only serve 8 years consecutively, and then it got to come at one time in most states. And so you got senators have term limits. No, they don't have term limits. So senators
Nobody
don't
has
have
term limits.
our legislative
Except president
Our
at the
legislative
federal
people do not have term limits. It just doesn't make any sense. You need to. I'm not saying they should have to run for election. No, I don't want that, because then it becomes truly partisan. What I'm saying is that once Clarence Thomas is in office now, he's the Supreme Court now. At some point, Clarence should have to step down. Period.
Right.
And not step down because his age or anything like that. 20 years, in my mind, 20 years is enough for a Supreme Court judge.
Right. In some states like North Carolina, they put limits on as far as age, but not as far as how many terms you can serve.
And so,
But
I'm going to go one step further, Marsh.
Okay.
There should be no job. There should be no government job that you can go and stay forever. If you're in state government, they've got age limits. At some point, you got to move on. At some point,
Right.
But with the Supreme Court, you literally can die,
Yeah, and some
pass away, and
Right.
some do,
Right.
in office.
Right.
They're 80, 85, 90, and you're passing away in office. There's got to be some limit to it. That's all I'm saying. Some limit to it. And Virginia Fox is a classic example of that.
Right.
If you had 20 years, and then another thing that gets around is people will say to themselves, either in their last year or their first years that they're there, they're going to say something like this: you know what? Maybe I should just do what's right for the American people. Maybe instead of me worried about getting elected all the time, this is my last term. This is my last term out of 20 years. Maybe I should try to, at this point, I should do something that's right for the American people. But if you're only running, especially when they do the heavy gerrymandering like they're doing now, you're only running for one side, whether it's Republican or Democrat, you're only running for one side. You only got to compete one constituent. You could stay in office forever, Marsh, and never be out.
Right. Well, I think you've always said, Nigel, that there's something about that seat that just makes people very, very chatty, like your baby brother. I'm a believer now, because you talk for about 10 minutes.
It's a vibe that comes out of this seat. Listen, it don't necessarily mean you're talking about anything, but it does make you more chatty when you're in this seat.
It does. But we have to move on now too. As many of you are aware, we talked about this last week, and the Supreme Court has officially gutted the Voting Rights Act of 1965, where it has really no real teeth anymore. And there's been a lot of consternation among Democrats in the country, mind you, about, they're getting pummeled, they're getting beat down, they're really got them, backing up on their heels as far as what's going on between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. And so they're trying to re-strategize, Nigel, as far as, if that's such a word, to get themselves back in a position where they're being competitive. And you say this all the time. You say this a lot about the Democrats being more, what's the word?
Soft.
Yeah. Soft, weak-kneed.
Weak.
Yeah.
Soft.
Not ready to do anything that's necessary, as their Republican counterparts often are ready to do by any means necessary. And so they're starting to, the grumblings, particularly among the younger members in the party, that enough is enough, and they want to move some of the older heads out of the way because they don't think the older heads are fighting fire with fire. And so one of the things Democrats have talked about, they were involved when they were in charge, and they want to go back to attacking these local legislatures, okay? When I say attacking, I mean trying to gain better control, like the Republican Party has done in many states, particularly the South. They have control of the state legislatures, and then that helps them control the redistricting process and all that stuff that goes along with it, and then, and maintain power or secure power. And so the Dems trying to say, well, we need to start doing some of that same stuff, because they got jammed up on you remember when President Trump said, well, I want you guys, Texas, and there were a couple other southern states, want you to start redrawing your district lines right now, which is unheard of, because typically the district lines are redrawn after the census.
What he said was, we need some more seats.
Right.
Trump, he's basically to the point.
Right.
We need some more Republican seats.
Right.
Redraw your lines.
Right.
And that's what they did.
That's what they did. And so the Democrats, through Gavin Newsom, California, Virginia, which is another one we're getting ready to talk about, they, instead of just sitting back on their heels, which would typically be the thing, they said, well, if the Republicans start withdrawing district lines, we're going to do the same thing. And so they did that. In California, it went through. In Virginia, it passed as well. However, the federal court, overturned the ruling as far as because it would have given Virginia four additional Democratic seats, and the court overruled that. And so now the Democrats are talking, well, we got to do something about the Supreme Court and the federal courts. Well, I don't know what they can do about the federal courts in general.
Nothing.
Because they have been they have been flooded now with young guys.
Okay.
And very conservative guys.
So why can't they do anything about the federal courts? Because what?
Because they serve for life.
Bingo. So that's my point.
Right.
You got the Supreme Court, which is the top
now
level,
what they can,
and then right below them is the federal court,
right,
which serves for life.
Right.
You got a judge that's in there for life. Doesn't have to where he can say or do anything.
Right.
And then at that point,
to your point, there is I remember a few years back a case I was doing that it got removed to federal court. Very sad case, but we were the judge presiding over that case, well known, around this North Carolina and whatnot, and just been there for many, many years. Does whatever the heck he wants to do in his courtroom.
Sounds like you took an L in that courtroom.
L, but we bounced back. No, L, but we appealed it and got sent right back, and so we didn't take an L the next time, But yeah, so he seeing the mannerisms. I remember when we were presenting, the other side gave their presentation, and then we got to do our presentation like maybe a couple of minutes into it. I heard enough. I got another case. I got to do whatever. So we actually didn't get to present really at all. And the guy, my buddy's like, man, can he do that? I said, well, yeah, it's his courtroom. And so then he, ruled in their favor, and then we had to, like I said, go to the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals to get that undone. But judges who feel insulated, even ones that up for election, you can still see a lot of decisions being made or a demeanor of, this is my courtroom, I do what I want. You experienced that before.
Very much so.
Yeah, you know how that goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what I would say to that is, there should always be the threat of the people voting you out. Now, I'm not talking about Supreme Court at this point.
Right.
And not even so much federal judges. I just think they need term limits. They need a limited amount, not even term, just an amount of time that they can serve before they have to move on and go get real jobs. And so,
wait,
it's not a real job.
Judges work hard, man.
I'm not saying that federal and Supreme Court judges work about, well, especially Supreme Court, they work 5-6 months out of the year, and they chilling the rest of the time.
Well,
they're chilling, and so and they only hear cases certain times, and this is the gravy part. They only have to hear cases that they want to hear.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if you read the case to them, we don't want to hear that. Kick it back. Kick it back to the lower courts. They only hear cases that they want to hear.
Right.
If it's something very controversial, they don't want to fool with it. They don't fool with it. So what I'm saying to you is they should have a limited amount of time that they can serve. Whatever the limit is, Marsh. I'm not even saying it's 5, 10, 50. Make it 20 years. Make it 25 years. But you got to have a time when a person, a man or a woman, is not responsible to anyone for their decisions that they make, and they cannot be removed. Then at some point, someone has to say, well, man, there's no need to me to go appeal it and go to the Supreme. So at least you had some options when this judge did what he did.
Right.
You had a chance to appeal it, but once you get to the Supreme Court, there's no more appeals.
That's it.
That's
which is where and we'll get to D in just one sec. This is why what the Republican Party has done with the judiciary and the courts across the nation, both on the state and federal level, has been very, very effective. And it's locked them in those power positions for many years to come. Many, many years to come. Because as you said, whenever something comes up that's controversial, it's going to go, if it's a really big controversial thing, like whether it be abortion or voting rights or whatever, where will it ultimately end up? The
Supreme Court.
And then, so they have the power ultimately over deciding important key issues in the country. And we have DL on the line. DL, are you there?
DL, what's going on?
Yeah. Good morning.
Good morning.
This issue for the Democrats started when RGB didn't retire under the Obama administration. And I'm going to put this, what we're going through now with Joe Biden, who said he was only going to run one term and betrayed the rest of America. He not just Democrats he betrayed America. And I'll tell you why. So you give Jim Clyburn credit for resurrecting his campaign in 20. And those folks, you have to sign into the White House, correct me if I'm wrong, Marshall, when you usually they keep a visitor's log. The Jim Clyburns and Nancy Pelosi, the Chuck Schumers, and Biden's chief of staff that saw him every day knew that he wasn't capable or wasn't going to perform well. And they sold everybody a bill of goods that were bad. And the legacy media, CNN, not Fox, but ABC, CBS, NBC went with it because of the dislike to Trump. I get it. Even if Trump wasn't a candidate, he should have turned the reins over. I'll say this again. America does not want a woman. They didn't care if they were black, Hindu, or white. They've shown that. And look at the consequence. When they found out that Biden couldn't go in June, it was too late. It was way too late, and they knew this. And now, I understand why Jim Clyburn didn't say nothing. His daughter worked in the Obama administration, then his other daughter worked in the Biden administration, so he had a conflict of interest. They let their young Democrats down. Because look at the consequences. Consequences have actions. I mean, elections have consequences. The courts on the federal level. It's even if when these Clarence Thomas and Alito, if they retire now, they're going to get them out before Trump leaves. They're going to – it's set up. The only way the Democrats can turn this thing around, they have to get 60 seats in the Senate going into 28 and win the presidency and throw in 4 more justices and whatnot. This is terrible, and I fought the Democratic brass under Biden and the legacy media because Jake Tapper wrote a book afterwards. I'm like, dude, you have all these contacts. Now you know Biden was shot, and you writing a book about it. Get out of here, man.
Right.
And so.
Thanks, DL. Appreciate
thanks, DL. And what I would say to just kind of piggyback or add to what DL, he brought up Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Ruth Bader, yes.
So she was a judge,
right?
And then she was older, and then no one wanted to say to her, "Someone's got to have that tough conversation. You got to step down. We need that seat.
Right.
We need to put somebody younger in that seat. Yes, you have done all this stuff, and and you've been, a champion for women, and all that. Somebody needs to say to her, you got to step down, because what we don't want to happen, which is what happened, you step down during a Republican administration.
A lot of people on the Democratic side just underestimated the election when Hillary Clinton lost that election. People just didn't fathom on the Democratic side that Trump,
except for MP2,
right? That Trump.
I'll say it to you. I'll say it to you all again and again. I'm with DL when it comes to that. I don't know that a woman can't win president of the United States. I don't know that.
Right.
I do know a woman can't beat Trump.
Right.
That's what I do know, because that's been proven. He's 2-0.
Right.
And in elections overall, he's 2-1. He lost to Biden.
Right.
So, of course, he beat Kamala Harris, and he beat, Hillary Clinton. And so I'm not necessarily agreeing with DL, because I do know they can't beat Trump. And so for whatever reasons, that maybe that machoism and, machismo and whatever you got going on, I don't really know, but they couldn't beat him. Right. And so that's kind of where we got. But also we forget. We got that way because of they would not let Obama seat a judge for 8-9 months.
Yeah, he was
a Supreme Court judge.
Yeah, I forgot the judge's name who's later the Attorney General. I can't believe I forgot his name, but he was. They held him Chuck, what's the senator's name from is it from Mississippi or Kentucky? Mitch McConnell. He did a masterful job of holding that seat up, not letting the vote.
Said he was a
come.
lame duck president.
Right.
That's what he said about Obama. Even 8 months out, 9 months out. Even when President Obama first started talking about it was a long time. So. And then as soon as Obama's gone, then they seat the president, and it's a Republican-leaning person.
Right.
I'll say it, and I'll say it again. When you get a person down, you kick them. You don't let them up. That's what Republicans are saying to themselves right now. We got everything like we want it. We control the House, the Senate, the presidency, the Supreme Court, the judges at the federal level.
Yeah.
On and on and on. So now this is our time. If Democrats were in the same position, even now, they will be still singing that same thing. Can we all get along? Let's all come together. First thing Obama says, let's all come together. We can't all come together. They've proven that they don't want you to come together. When you get a person down, you got to finish them off, and that's what they're trying to do now.
Well, they don't state it quite like that.
No, they don't say anything. They're just doing it. They're not saying anything.
No, I mean, a lot of Democrats feel that, that mean-spirited, nasty type, that is, people shouldn't be like that.
That's what losers say.
And
that's what, you and I both, Mark, that's true.
And they don't want to exemplify that, and get down that level. So that's what they would say. But they want to do things that, they care how things look. Okay, for one, they don't want to be perceived as the party that's just ruthless and would do anything to any groups of persons they need to get to maintain the power that they want to maintain. Whereas, Republicans are less concerned about how things look.
That's why they're winning. That's why we're losing. That's all I can tell you. I mean, there's a reason why people say nice guys finish last. There is a reason for that. The nice guys finish last. Yeah. Because, if you're doing anything, it's the same thing with sports. Your best sports people are just nasty jokers. Michael Jordan smiles and stuff. Tiger Woods, they smile and stuff all the time. But when it comes to that sport, whatever sport that is, they are nasty. When it comes, they win at all costs. They're going to win no matter what. And then we'll worry about smiling and getting along with people later on.
Right.
So, I mean, again, even if it was now, even though we have some younger Democrats now that are taking along this mentality, this tougher mentality, and those, but I draw your attention back to when Obama first became president. At that time, we had the House.
We had everything.
We had everything.
Yeah, we had it, except the courts.
Except the court. The court was 5-4 then.
Yeah, it was.
With John Roberts playing that swing role. Then you remember that? Right. That was during that period of time. Yeah. So he was kind of swinging different ways. He's not now. But he was then. he was then. They've leaned on him now. Right. So no more of that swing stuff for him.
Right.
But so that's why it's 6-3. So, but when you look at it, when you look at it, we had all that going on then, and we barely were able to get by the health care bill. Not because of the Republicans. It's because you had all these weak-kneed Democrats over there saying, well, maybe not.
Right.
Maybe we should do this. Maybe we should do that.
Right.
And all of those type of things. That's why they're losers. That's why the other side of the winners. That's the only thing I can say.
Well, it's just a lot easier to corral and go in one direction if your makeup of your party is more homogenous. And with the Democratic Party, it's a very, very
no
diverse.
Doubt.
Yeah, I mean, all kind of walks of life. Correct. From different backgrounds,
Correct.
ethnicities, and all that kind of stuff.
They don't have groupthink. They don't.
Right.
They don't have a platform where everyone can fall up under. The tent is very large.
Right.
For the Democratic Party versus the Republican Party. The diversity within the party is very small. And so it's easier to corral, like you said, it's easier to corral people. That's a good point. So
right.
It's just not as easy to get when you got all different races of people. You got all different genders. You've got a whole bunch of stuff going on in the Democratic Party. It's just hard to corral them all.
It really is. But let's talk about real quick before we have to get out of here, some of the things that they're talking about doing. DL brought up one of the things that the Democrats are thinking about doing, and that's to, if they regain power and have enough votes to expand the Supreme Court.
They won't do it.
I don't think they'll do that either. I don't think they will do it.
Why don't you think they'll do it?
Because I just think they would feel like that was being, just too much. There's just being too aggressive. That may have not been what the forefathers intended. All that kind of stuff. So.
And what is that? How you summarize that? They're weak. That's right. They're not going to do it.
Right. And so that's one thing. The other thing they've talked about doing is in a lot of Democratic-led states, they went to the, with all this gerrymandering and redistricting, they said, well, let's form independent commissions. They had the power in these particular states. Let's do the independent commissions so we don't have to be going back and forth about this redistricting every year. What that did, it gives the party out of power, input into drawing these districts and whatnot, these independent commissions. Whereas in the southern states, no such thing. We're not gonna. Why we need an independent commission? That's not going to happen here. We got the power. We're going to do what we need to do. And so now the Democrats say, well, those places where we were setting up, had these independent commissions established to focus on, supposed to be working together, bipartisan group commission working together to create the districts in the state. Why don't we retract some of those? They want to get rid of some of those now because
they use the example of New York City.
Right.
Why would they be bipartisan commissions in New York City?
Right.
Fall in line or else. Right. Especially in the urban areas.
Right.
You should be saying fall in line or else you're not going to have a voice. Period.
Right.
And move on.
Right. And so, but that is, and they've also just talked about the actual, just the toughness of Democrats as far as they're willing to mix it up and tangle on divisive issues all the way down, get in the mud is what I'm trying to say. And I think Michelle Obama used to say it a lot, when they go low,
you go high.
We go high.
That don't work. Those days are gone. There's no taking the high ground now, the high road and all this kind of stuff. Politics has been drugged into the like it or not. But if you want to win, you're going to have to be a little bit more aggressive, a little nastier. That's one thing we can say about President Obama. Again, he was a killer when it came to politics. He smiled and laughed.
Right.
He got a smile on his face. But when it comes down to winning and losing, Obama's going to do what it takes to win.
Right.
And so that side of him, and he came out of Chicago politics.
Right.
That side of him, people didn't really look at it that way.
He got that lady, the lady that was supposed to win. He got her disqualified,
Kicked off the ballot.
and she was the front runner.
Yeah, kicked off the ballot. as when he's running for Congress.
Right.
Yeah, kicked off the ballot. I mean, that's kind of how things work when you're trying to win. Then, listen, if you're not in a position to win, you can't get your policies and different things that you want to get done. You just simply can't do it.
Right.
If you're not in, you got to get there first.
Right.
And so you can balk and complain about how the ways they're getting there. Right here in North Carolina, they're getting there first, and then they put in whatever kind of policies, whether we like them or not. So when people say it doesn't matter who you vote for, DL had it best. Now DL he continues to harp on that Biden. We all know now Biden should have stepped down.
Right. He should have.
He should have done them 4 years and stepped down. But it's kind of hindsight for me.
Right.
I did not know. Let me speak for myself. I did not know Biden was in that bad a shape.
I don't think most of us did at the time.
But DL is right though. The people who knew.
Right. They did. And I thought he was a good president. I really do.
Oh yeah, Biden was a very good president.
Right, very good president. But I didn't know he was in that kind of shape. And as DL pointed out, you can't, just like a track meet. When you run a relay, you can't get the baton to your person late. And trying to pass it off to Kamala Harris at that point, it gave the baton out way too late for her to even have a real shot. And again, even if she had a full run, we still don't know if she would have been able to beat Trump. We just don't know.
This is the thing, though. And it's not just
because he's like Barack. We've said this many times before. People always say, well, after the Jordan Bulls broke up, the owner thought, well, we'll just get another team to come. A Jordan comes around once in a lifetime.
Once in several lifetimes.
Right. A Barack comes around once in a lifetime, or several. A Donald Trump, same way, comes around once in a lifetime or several lifetimes. These are very extremely unique individuals. It just so happened that we elected them in a very short period of time. Very unique, extraordinary individuals, and they are. Whether you love them or hate them, they were extraordinary individuals. And you can't expect what's the vice president?
J.D. Vance.
You can't expect the J.D. Vance to have the same kind of magnetic appeal to millions of people that Donald Trump did. It's just not going to happen. He doesn't have the it. You wouldn't expect some folks on the Democratic side to have the same thing that Barack had. It just doesn't come around like that.
Kamala Harris.
What?
That's what they thought. They thought Kamala Harris was going to demand, and all that fundraising from California, because that's where it came from. all that money,
no, that's not true.
All that money that came from wherever it came from, and then people thought there was going to be, and see, that's what people, and that's what it's fool's gold. It really is. When you start looking at, now we know Barack was unique, and everything he did. Trump is unique.
Yes.
When he's out of office, we're not going to see anybody like that for a long. Thank God, we're not going to see anybody like that for a long time.
Right.
And so, we don't know. Like Myron said, if Myron was sitting in this seat, he'd say, we don't know.
Right.
We don't know. We can't see down the road who's going to be.
Because from 2008 to now, we've seen two individuals like that, Barack and Trump.
Correct.
So it's anything's possible. Myron is certainly right about that.
Well, we know that for the presidential race coming up, we know that it's going to be. We know Kamala's going to throw her name in the hat.
Well, we don't know that.
Well, she's leaning.
She
about to fall over. She's leaning so hard. She's about to fall over. She's leaning so hard. And then Gavin Newsom's going to throw his name in the hat. Why not?
I agree with that.
Why not? And then J.D. Vance.
Of course.
Those are your participants. And we know, what do we know about all three of them? They're not unique like Barack or Trump.
No, they're not.
The closest one that would be unique like that, because of her gender, would be Kamala.
Right. Correct.
But Gavin Newsom and J.D. Vance are your regular politicians.
Yeah.
All day long. Right. They're your regular politicians.
Right. But anyway, we'll see how it all pans out and see if the Democrats can.
You're right, Marsh. There's something about this seat.
Yeah, because you've been super chatty
man,
today,
super chatty. They got some talk on this seat. It must be the spirit of the seat.
All right, we gotta get.
It's better chat though.
Right.
You will agree with that.
Right,
Better
right.
chat.
All right, we gotta get out of here. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I am Marshall Pitts.
Module Pitts.
And Myron Pitts, who's away, and we are
MP3.
Have a great weekend, everyone.